Jaina Proudmore. Jaina Proudmore's the daughter of Admiral Proudmore, who's kind of the king of Kultiras, Kultiras. I'm looking at notes here. Which is not an explorable area in World of Warcraft, but it's like one of the kingdoms of the Human Alliance that you never really hear about in World of Warcraft. But that's where Admiral Proudmore's from, and so she's also the daughter of royalty. So they meet eventually because Admiral Proudmore comes to the castle for relations or whatever to talk about what's going on with the orcs and blah blah blah. And Arthas kind of sees her and kind of like becomes love struck, and kind of doesn't know how to talk to her and stuff, but eventually learns that she's going to become a mage. She wants to go to Dalaran and learn under Antonidas, who's like the head mage over at Dalaran, or Dalaran, for those who don't know, is like the city where all the mages come from and congregate, all the most powerful mages in the world. So he meets Jaina and kind of love struck, and Jaina actually becomes friends with his sister, with Arthas' sister, but Arthas wants to get closer to her, doesn't know how. Eventually, she decides to go to Dalaran, which she does, and Arthas continues his training. But they met and they've become friends, and Arthas eventually goes to Dalaran to see her, to meet her, and just like see how she's doing, and she's doing really well, and she's actually become the apprentice of Antonidas, who is the head of the Kirin Tor in Dalaran. Kirin Tor is like the guild of mages, I guess. And they actually like kind of fall in love like way early on, and they it's kind of written in the book, kind of like high school romance, stupidness, like flirty and whatnot. It's kind of dumb. Anyways, there's this guy Kel'Thas Sunstrider, who's this blood elf who is actually the prince of Quel'Thalas, which is like the blood elves kingdoms. They're called high elves. They're not called blood elves yet. The high elf kingdom. He's a prince also. He's the son of the king of that place, who also has a crush on Jaina and doesn't know that Jaina likes Arthas so much. But he actually walks in on them kissing one time, and he just gets pissed, and Jaina's like, "Oh, I should have told you." And Quel'Thalas is like, "Oh, what? I don't understand." Anyways, I'm just kind of breezing over all this. It kind of sounds like all jumbled together, but I'm just trying to get to the good stuff. So sorry if this first part's kind of boring and a mess. But Quel'Thalas, basically, I'm just trying to establish relations. Quel'Thalas basically kind of, at this point, gets kind of a hatred of Arthas already because he's with Jaina, and he had a huge crush on Jaina, and he thought that Jaina was available and was laying it on pretty thick before he knew that she was with Arthas. So they kind of don't have a good relationship, and Arthas eventually has to go back and continue being a prince, and he's growing older. One day he's riding his horse around. It's kind of a huge point in his life. It's snowing and stuff, but he just wants to ride his horse, so he is. And he does this jump that he always does all the time on his way to Balnir Farmstead, which is where the horse was born. But the horse slips on some ice and gets impaled. And Arthas, like, the horse is impaled and is pretty much dying there. And Arthas is like, no! And he's not a paladin yet, and he doesn't know the powers, and he just wants to have the light come so he can heal the horse, but he can't. The horse eventually dies, and Arthas is kind of abandoned, but the guy who raises the horses of the Balnir Farmstead finds him the next day and says, "Oh my god, what happened?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. He slipped on the ice," and it's like heartbroken. It's like a huge loss to Arthas. Arthas blames himself. He's like, "I shouldn't have been writing," and he feels alone now. And it's like a huge thing that affects him in his life. So they bury the horse like right there outside of Balnir Farmstead, which now is an empty grave, and I'll explain why later. But you can actually see it in World of Warcraft, I think, from what I hear. Around this time, the the second war is ending, and the humans have pretty much won, and they're starting to intern the orcs. The orcs going into internment camps. Watch my Thrall 101. You'll learn a lot about the orc internment camps. The orcs are being interned. The humans pretty much won. Stormwind is being rebuilt at this point. Varian Wyrn is kind of older, and he's going to become the prince or the king eventually. So stuff's kind of coming back to normal. Uther's back, and Uther starts to train. After Magni Bronzebeard trained him really hardcore, Arthas has become a great fighter because of the dwarf, not Magni, Mirrodin Bronzebeard. Because of this dwarf Mirrodin Bronzebeard, Magni's the king of Ironforge, Mirrodin's brother. So because of Mirrodin, he's become this awesome fighter. But now Uther's back, and Uther starts to train him also, and also in the ways of the light, of the ways of being a paladin. Because Uther is like the first paladin in the Silver Hand, and this ultimate paladin. So he wants to teach him about the light and how to heal and all this stuff about being a paladin, being righteous, and being the defender of the weak, and the punisher of the wicked, and all this stuff, and what a paladin stands for. To become a member of the Knight of the Silver Hand, which he eventually does, and it's like a big ceremony. He becomes a paladin. He gets his hammer, and it's like a huge thing. So now Arthas is a paladin. He also, his relationship with Jaina develops further. Now that he's becoming an eye of public figure, he's kind of old enough to start being a prince and doing prince-like things. Jaina would come down to the city, and during the Hallows End festival, or I forget what they call it in World of Warcraft, but you know, the Halloween, it happens every year in World of Warcraft. There's pumpkins everywhere. You can put on masks of the other races, all that fun stuff. Hallows End or Hallows Eve or whatever they call it. I think they call it Hallows End. Whatever. During that festival, Jaina would show up, and Arthas and Jaina would be seen in the public eye a lot, and it's kind of like, even Tyrannus Menethil, Arthas' father, who's the king, like when he would have like public speakings, when he's sitting on his throne, he would have Arthas on one side and Jaina on the other, as if it's prince and princess, even though they're not married yet, but people are starting to see it that way. And during the Hallows Eve festival, they have that whole burning the Wicker Man thing. Arthas was giving a speech, and he was like, oh yeah, you know, hey, I'm your prince, and blah blah blah. Oh, check out, here's Jaina. I want to introduce you guys to Jaina. She's going to light the Wicker Man this year. She's an accomplished mage. She's under the tutelage of Antonidas of the Kirin Tor. Check her out. And then she's like, you want me to light it? Okay. And she's just like, because she's a mage, fire, lights the Wicker Man. Everything goes in an uproar, and Arthas smiles at her, and she smiles back, and it's kind of like, oh hey, this is working out. The public loves it. We can be prince and princess. And they kind of decide to be together. And then Arthas, at one point, decides to escort Jaina like back to Dalaran. This may be out of order. I don't know if this happened before or after they decided to become a couple. But so they're camping out one night on their way to Dalaran, and they're kind of near one of the internment camps. And Arthas wants to see an orc because he's never seen one. And so does, and Jaina kind of does too. So Arthas wakes up in the middle of the night and kind of like shakes her. He's like, let's go see an orc. It's like, no, we can't do that. And he's like, come on, I'm the prince, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of cool because it's kind of crossover to like, you know, what happened with the internments and stuff. And he goes over there, and they look in there, and they see the orcs intern, and they see him all lethargic. And if you watch my 101 on Thrall, you'll know why, because they're all demon corrupted, and now that they're captured, they kind of, their bloodlust has dropped, and they don't know what to do. So they see the orcs, and it's kind of this crazy thing, and so they sneak back and, you know, go back to sleep and bring Jaina back to Dalaran. So they're kind of a couple, and years pass, a couple more years pass, a couple months, I'm not sure. Stuff's kind of normal. Arthas has become a public figure, like ready to take over kingship whenever his dad will eventually die, or whenever his dad gives up the throne to Arthas, and the people love him. He's the man of the people. Jaina still lives in Dalaran, but they see each other all the time.